particularly also in Venezuela happens. No, everybody is very concerned about research methodology. How can I do the work, the hypothesis, the samples, all these kind of things. And when you see all these things, it's just shake. If exactly, and this shape, in my particular opinion, sometimes change the ideas you have primary of the thing that you want to study. No, and at the end you feel like tired. Okay, let's do like the format set, like the rule set, and that's it. You're not worried about, like you said, the concept, the real apportations, no, the real, yes, you not the study, you not give the real meaning of your subject. No, I guess it's something like this.
Yeah.
Also, professors, you know, in the universities makes that you take this attitude, because at the end they, okay, cultural diplomacy like this, but you know, you need an hypothesis, or you need samples, you need to do no interviews, survey, something like this, yes. So, and I said, okay, but for example, my investigation is qualitative research, because my objective is give some concepts, new scenarios and everything. But
Right.
when the people said no, but you need that to do in quantitative, you feel like, okay.
No, there is nothing wrong with believing in the quantitative method, but quantitative method is not the only way of doing research. See, what I find among students in most of the departments, they pick up this primary research where they go and they say, I'm collecting data. And they don't know what to do with that data. I try to tell people that please do not have too many questions. Do not have too many questions in your questionnaire. Do not have too many respondents. Don't take 1,000 respondents, 200 questions per respondent. You're not going to get anywhere with that. Even R will not help you with it, or Python will not help you with it. So the idea of empirical research is that first and foremost, you should know what it is that you're looking for. And then, are there no other studies? Are there no other studies of the variety that you have in mind? Because if there are other studies of the kind you have in mind, then your research is a waste, because there are already other things. People have said that. I'll tell you what's happened with one of my students. He is a reasonably intelligent chap, and he wrote his own thesis. And I don't know why, because everybody says Ambedkar, Ambedkar. He took Ambedkar. And he submitted his thesis 8.5 months ago. Now, the protocol is that you have a list of 12 examiners. You send them the synopsis of the thesis. And if they think they can adjudicate on that and it's of interest to them or whatever, they have to say, yes, I'm willing to adjudicate. Okay, otherwise they'll say no. Now this chap, I had told him then itself, why are you doing this? Because there's nothing new you can do on Ambedkar anymore. Ambedkar himself didn't have many new things to say. He didn't have too many new things to say. So this thing is, why are you going on and on about this man? So people are saturated with this research on Ambedkar. And now no examiner is willing to adjudicate. 8.5 months ago, he submitted his thesis. It was sent to 12 people, the synopsis. None of them are agreeing. Till today, he does not have a single adjudicator. I told them, see, it's one thing while you sit here in the university and you talk about Ambedkar or you talk about what an idiot Gandhi is. While you are running your own private conversations amongst yourselves, all that will do. It'll go. But when it comes to a thesis is something of a serious exercise. You have to show something new. Doesn't have to be completely, the whole thesis doesn't have to be completely new. But you at least have to show 3 or 4 elements which hitherto have not been brought out. So nobody wants to take that thesis. Now that chap is asking me, what should I do? I said, what can I do? What can I do? You wrote, I signed. He didn't do a bad job of it, frankly. But there's nothing new in it. So when they read the synopsis, they know that there's nothing new in it. So when it is nothing new, nobody wants to take it up. So that has become a problem now. What do we do? Who do we send it to? Who will take it? People are very happy doing the same thing again and again and again and again. But the whole world is not like that. And especially in the academia, people want to see new ideas. People want to see at least new interpretations of old ideas or existing ideas. People want to see all those things. But what are you saying? You're talking about caste as endogamy, okay, and annihilation of caste that Ambedkar wanted. Nobody is taking an audit, for example. We have this reservation system here in this country for the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and all of them. In the Constitution, when it was framed, Ambedkar himself said that 10 years is when we should have, is what we should have as a time period for reservations. And after that, let's reevaluate how much of an impact it has made. And just before he died, he wrote an essay in which he said, I'm very disappointed with this reservation system because I thought if you give reservations to the downtrodden sections, once they go up, they'll lend a helping hand to their brethren and try to pull them also up. Instead of that, those who became officers, those who became big shots, they started identifying themselves not with their brethren, but if I'm an IAS officer, then that fellow is also an IAS officer, so I'm his equal. You are not doing anything for your own people. And I also say, theorizing is one thing, and practicing is another thing. Gandhi, you've seen photos of Gandhi, I hope. He wears that thing above his knees, doesn't wear anything on the top of his body. And when he went to England for the Round Table Conference, he only took one khadi cloth in that cold. And that's why Churchill called him half-naked fakir. Okay. And this man's idea was, did you see the film Gandhi by Richard Attenborough? Did you?
Yeah. I saw one version of Gandhi that Hollywood, was in general, expanded in other countries. I don't remember the author, the actors, but yes, I saw one that is so famous, 80s, 70s.
Yeah, it came in the 80s. That was directed by Richard Attenborough. Now, Gandhi did not have a division between practice and theory. Practice and theory, right? So when he came back from South Africa, he wanted to know how his country was because he hadn't seen the country. So if you've all seen it, you see it again, Richard Attenborough's Gandhi. So what did he do? He traveled by train, traveled across India. And there is a very, very moving scene where, in those days, train compartments did not have toilets and all that. So it used to stop somewhere near a lake or something.
River.
And people would go around with their ablutions. So when Gandhi went towards the lake, he found a lady who did not have clothes. So she was sitting in the water. It was extremely cold water. She was sitting in it. So what does Gandhi do? He takes off this thing that they wear. But then he realizes that doesn't cover her whole body. So he gives a part of his dhoti, doesn't speak to her, doesn't say anything to her. He just lets that float towards that woman and he goes in. After that, he said, I realize that I am living in a country riddled with poverty, where people do not have privacy to have their bath, especially women. And so he basically said, as long as my countrymen are like this, in this majority of them, not all of them, they are in this kind of a heathen position of life. Then he said, I will also be like them. I will also be like them. And the dhoti, he never wore it till his feet. It was above his knees. That is how the peasants dressed. That is how the peasants dressed. This man, it's a wonderful thing, where he said, if you want change, first you be that change. And there's another wonderful scene in Jawaharlal Nehru's house. Okay, Jawaharlal Nehru was a well-off man, so he had butlers and all that kind of stuff. And so all the Congress leaders, and including those days Jinnah, they all basically met at Nehru's residence. And the butler had put tea in a kettle, and he had brought saucers and cups. And he went back in to fetch something else. Everybody is waiting for the butler to come back. Gandhi is having a conversation about what to do with the future of the movement. Doesn't break the conversation. As he's having the conversation, he just gets up, goes, takes a saucer, puts a cup in it, pours the tea, and he, as soon as he does that, everybody decides, oh God, he's doing it, let's also do it. So Gandhi was somebody who practiced what he preached. He practiced what he preached. I ask people, I don't ask this out of contempt. I don't ask this out of contempt, but I said, have you seen any depiction of Gandhi anywhere in a suit? Have you seen any depiction of Ambedkar in a dhoti, half-naked fakir? Did you see him like that?
Never.
Yeah. So yet he's the champion. Gandhi has now been branded casteist. And if you have the guts, write these things. And we've had reservations for, and when Ambedkar himself said that the reservation policy has failed, when he himself said that just before he died, why are we still following this policy? It's 75 years. Why are we following this policy? Has anybody taken a social audit of how many families have, for how many generations, availed reservations and how many families, backward, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, how many of them have been touched by these reservations? Has anyone done an audit? No. Every 10 years you say, we are extending it. You keep adding new categories to it. But has anyone has done an audit to see how many families in this country have captured reservations? I can tell you from experience, from somebody I know. His father was an IAS officer. This chap availed reservations, went to the best schools, best universities, availed reservations, and became a civil servant. He was in the foreign service. He still is. And his brother became an IAS officer. Their children continue to avail reservations. Now, who is your enemy? Really, who is your enemy? Your enemy is the one who's blocking your door. Is the upper caste blocking your door? Does he even have a say in your reservations? Doesn't. He has to fight for other jobs. He'll go to the private sector, beg, borrow, steal, and go to some good university where the faculty is good, where he can learn something. From there, take off to the States. Don't look back at the country. So, where is the audit? How many people have benefited? How many people have not benefited? How many generations have actually availed reservations? In the rural areas, what is the status of the untouchables? In the rural areas. City, it's okay, doesn't matter much. It's in the rural areas. And again, up north and down south, there's a difference. So nobody has done that audit. The government is supposed to do this audit rather than say every 10 years we just increase the reservations for another 10 years. Why don't you look at how many generations have availed reservations? Why don't you say 2 generations only you avail reservations? If after that you're able to do something with your life, then do. If you still can't do anything with your life, too bad. Because otherwise you are just blocking, not me, not somebody else. You're blocking your own people. Politicians play vote banks. Till today, nobody has asked the question, let's do a social audit of the impact of reservations. You mouth the same homilies, the same platitudes. You do the same thing. I know people who are from those sections who have 4 or 5 times the money that I have. I don't have too much money, but those people have. They have constructed 3 houses, 4 houses. I have not constructed a single house. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are doing research, if you're just going to recycle the same idea, if you're going to go on recycling the same idea, who's interested? So when people are rejecting his thesis, I mean, rejecting as in, we don't want to be adjudicators. The reason they are going is that this is, who doesn't know what he has written? Everybody knows this. So you see, that's why I tell people in Usmania University, you have to get out of this university, get out into the world, see what it is like. Because you're sitting in the confines of the Usmania University, shouting the same slogans again and again and again. You've been shouting those same slogans for the past 50 years. What has changed? So, if I say that, I'm going to put this, I'm recording it. I'm going to put this out on YouTube. Let me see how many people will come to kill me. Because I said something about Ambedkar here. Ambedkar is God. But that doesn't mean that I don't respect Ambedkar. What I'm trying to say is, what is the point in, even if it is Thomas Hobbes, he wrote about social contract. How many theses will you write about it? How many theses will you write? Why is it a thesis anymore? It's not a thesis anymore. It is just a reiteration of an idea that so many people have already said. So you'll have to do something new. You'll have to do something innovative. And that is when people will want to do something. I did my PhD on music as an expression of the political. People were stunned. What has this got to do with this? I said, read it and you'll know what is what. So you see, the thing is that one has to get out of one's comfort zone. One has to get out of one's comfort zone because these people are not equipped to do empirical research. The reason why I have been talking about theoretical research first is that you can use secondary sources and you can use them to draw new conclusions. Like, what is the difference between St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas? St. Augustine was more influenced by Plato. Aquinas was influenced by Aristotle. Now that makes a world of difference between both of them are men of church. But there is so much difference between their philosophies. So you see that spirit of inquiry, doing something new, picking up various new ideas. You just have to think, look at the world around you. That's why I tell people, don't box yourself into one container and sit there and recycle the same ideas. Don't. Get out of that box. Take a walk. See the world. What has changed? What has not changed? It's obvious. You can see what has changed and what has not changed. So if you do that, then new research will come. Now, I'm not going to compromise on how I go about doing research methodology. Simply because if you don't have the mental stamina to really understand the subtle nuances which make the difference between good research and bad research, it's your loss, not mine. It's seriously your loss. If you want to recycle old ideas, go ahead. Recycle them. A time will come when it's already come. Like I said, not many people are willing to take this fellow's thesis. They don't want to adjudicate. So you see, that's what happens if you sit in one corner of the world and think that is the world.
Yeah.
You need to be a little more broad-minded. You'll have to uh, accept that those people whom you consider great have their own shortcomings. They're human beings, they're not gods. So those shortcomings have to be accepted. It's only when those are accepted, then will you able to find new research questions. And it's only through new research questions that you do new research that generates slightly newer knowledge. Slightly newer knowledge. And research is a continuous process. It's not something that you do for 4 years, get your PhD and write, I'm Dr. So and so, and go. You're only degrading the degree. You're not upgrading yourself. So anyway, I'll put one notice to some of the people. And if they are not interested, tell me if you are interested. I don't mind. I don't mind doing it for one person.
No, I'm interested because for me, all your information is good for my, obviously for my research and my own experience here, no?
Yeah.
Because, I'm working this issue about cultural diplomacy, but what happened, no? I have one first paper that I did. And I read that paper and I feel like, okay, Maria, this is not the real thing that happened in India. What happened in India is, in every place where I travel, every place where I, check how the life is, it's like you say, for example, North and South is very different. So you can talk about one culture in India. You maybe you have one identity. That is my experience now. Maybe you have one identity. Everybody recognizes here like Indians, but in fact, the culture is very different. Yes, very different. And if you compare North with South, even the patterns of conquers Mughal Empire and the Indians and emperors itself are very different. No,
Right.
so you have too many visions, too many positions, and the point is in this stage of my research is which or what Indian culture is, no? Because if I talking about soft power between during the first period of Moody, that was the construction of this. He took all this and put in this time, and highlight like, okay, we are India, and now we take all our culture and we do politics with this. But what kind of politics is culture India here? When you stay here, you see, okay, what kind of culture? Because here there are too much, and not is necessarily, that every concept of culture is like the same or in peace between one and each other. For example, this reality between Muslims and Indians, both cultures was part that the Indian identity, but culturally in this government, and this is the more difficult part for me, in this government, it's like broken. And I feel like this unity that Gandhi works and everything is like very, very fragile. I don't know if you understand me. You see the news, no? You see the news, you see the attitude in the young people here about these concerns. You see, for example, that all the people not is total open to discuss about this, no? And you start to think, okay, this is the big democracy, but what is the basis? Because you said, okay, if you are in a democracy, you can talk about all this without any fear. Yeah. So what happened? So what happened with that concept, culture, and how they consider culture to do diplomacy? No, mostly, for example, with Latin American countries. I talk with other fellows in Latin America and the other universities, and they said they don't have these ideas because, okay, they do the research there in Argentina, in Chile, in Mexico, but not coming here to see the reality. And they think that, no, India, namaste, peaceful, but behind this, there are more things. Right. There are an entire behavior. And we have, for example, we have a gap about 30 years. We now in Latin America understand better how Chinese think, and there are big central study research about it, but about India, no. And what happened? There are too much idealization. And when you see the external policy in India, try to reinforce that idea. But when you are here, the thing is totally different. Total. And I tell you this really freely and with all my respect, because I try to compare what all the things that I read, what all the things that I see, and I see in the cities and in the village here in India. No? And the idiosyncrasy of people in the small towns and everything. So for me, I am in this stage. Okay, how can I do this? How can I put this? Because you need sound correctly. Politically correctly when you write all these things. For me, it's very delicate. Right. So this is, for example, my point of the investigation. And I try to be the most, more clear possible. 3 question of research, 3 objectives. and that's it. And center in the relation between India and Latin America and the perspective, like the conclusion, no? That's it. But beyond is a very big discussion. Actually, it's a very big discussion. And yes. For example, for me, I was in Uzbekistan around 1 month ago. I went there. And for me, was very impressed. I went to all the museums and everything. I was very impressed that even there are words, even there are architecture, clothes, behaviors that are very similar of India. In one museum, Temur Museum, they have one hall completely devoted of India and all the architecture in Agra and all these kind of things. And I see that there are, a huge contribution in all this, despite, the violence and everything, but there were any contribution. But when I see here in India, now I see that this kind of heritage want to be erased in some way. And for me, it's like, okay, what happened here? You feel like, in my case, I feel like, okay, Maria, confused, no? And even for read the books, the books that I need to read, I feel confused because I don't know a balance point, no, to try to give a balanced point of view inside the thesis. This is now my.
Maria, actually, you're not under any duress to give a balanced picture. As long as your information on which you're going to be building your conclusions or on which you're going to be theorizing, as long as that information is not spurious, as long as that is not spurious, you can bring out the contradictions. See, when you look at a country like India, one good thing about this is that India is probably the only country in the world which had a Big Bang democracy. By that I mean till 1947 we never had any kind of democracy. And in 1947 we become a democracy. Okay, we decide we are a democracy. And we enfranchise everyone, irrespective of their position in society. But look at democracy in America. I have a friend who was an Indian, but who says India is nonsense, and he stays in the States. So he says it's a wonderful thing. I asked him, you think we're living in a democracy? He said, yeah, I'm living in a democracy. I said, what is the population of United States of America? He said, I don't know, but it's fairly substantial. I said, okay, fairly substantial. 538 people decide who's going to be the president. You have this idea of a popular vote, which is an eyewash, to make you believe that I am also voting. I told him about Al Gore and George Bush. Al Gore got more popular votes than George Bush did, George W. Bush. But George W. Bush got more votes in the electoral college. And so Al Gore challenged. He said, I've got more popular vote, more people want me, not you. So they went to court. After they went to court, the court said, the Supreme Court, it said, in our constitution, there is no sanctity to this thing called popular vote. The only vote that matters is that of the electoral college. And the electoral college has voted for George W. Bush. So Al Gore had to throw in the towel. Now, Supreme Court, judiciary. Who appoints judges in America? It's the president.
It's a president.
So if there's a vacancy, he'll put, if he's a Republican, he'll put a Republican there. Between Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, they filled up the judiciary with Republican sympathizers, completely with Republican sympathizers. And these people don't have a term. If you become a member of the judiciary, you're a member for the rest of your life. You're a member for the rest of your life. And secretaries, whom we call ministers, they call secretaries. At least our ministers, they may be horrible fellows, but they are at least elected. They are at least elected by the people. Whereas the secretaries in the US are handpicked by the president. They don't go through any election. People have no say in who's going to be picked up as a secretary. And one of the interesting facts about America is that from around 1969 or something around Nixon's time, the Secretary of State for Finance is always somebody who is a candidate picked up by the banks, Goldman Sachs, and when Lehman Brothers.
Yes.
So these are the people who pick up and say, this man is going to be our finance secretary. Now, when Obama became the president, everybody was thinking, that was after the subprime housing crisis. So everybody said, Obama will bail them out, the poor people who are unable to repay the loans. They thought Obama will bail them out. And what does Obama do? He bails out General Motors. He bails out Chrysler Corporation. So corporations are the ones he's bailing out, not the people. So Noam Chomsky is absolutely spot on when he says American democracy is manufacturing consent. You make it appear as if people want this, but people don't want that. That became obvious for the first time when Al Gore challenged George Bush. And I don't know if you're aware of this, when Trump won the elections, he had 2 million less popular votes than Hillary Clinton. 2 million people wanted Hillary Clinton and not Donald Trump. But the Electoral College said we want Trump. Why? Because it is full of Republicans. It's full of Republicans. So I told this friend of mine, so you're living there, earning your dollars, feeling good about it, because lifestyle in America, you can't compare it with what you get here in India. You can't compare with it. You get a great lifestyle there. All houses are centrally air conditioned and centrally heated. Okay, here it takes you a lot of effort to buy shoes. There you can go and buy a car much easier than you can buy shoes in India. So you look at all these things and say, wow, this is a great democracy. It is not. In Harvard, I picked up a quarrel with a person who said Alexei de Tocqueville, his two books, which he wrote in 1815 and 1835, Democracy in America, they keep touting that, and they say French Revolution was no revolution at all. The American Revolution was such a great revolution. And I told that old hag, the problem with all this Anglophone world is you have a tendency to misunderstand the French. The real democracy, maybe the streets of Paris were flowing with blood, but it was a real democracy with the Jacobins and the Girondins in control, Robespierre. Okay, and what is your revolution? You went and gave a declaration of independence. The King of England was bankrupt. He was unable to manage his own kingdom in his own place. So what will he do with you? So he sent army to the USA. And what happened? The army people said, hey, this is nice. We're not getting a proper livelihood in England, so let's come and settle down here. And everybody tells you that America is an Anglo-Saxon Protestant country. It is not. It is Anglo-Saxon Protestant in terms of those who have held on to power thanks to this electoral college. But the biggest immigration community to the US is Germans. Nobody knows, or very few people know, that as soon as the Second World War was over, America poached German scientists, took them to their land, gave them asylum, and said, work on these concepts that you're working, now work for the US. That's what they did. People don't tell you this. People will tell you war reparations, Germany. See, history is full of nuances. Unless you understand the nuances, you'll come up with rubbish conclusions. Yeah, you're saying something, sorry.
No, yes, I hear some story, for example, Oppenheimer, that was the scientific creator of the atomic bomb, that working in this project, in the Manhattan Project, he's actually German and Nazi. Yes.
He was a Nazi.
Yes.
He was a Nazi. So you know, that's why I tell people, please go deeply into history. Anything. You may be doing science, you may be doing optical physics. Everything has its own history.
Mm.
And unless and until you learn that history, your understanding of anything from that area is extremely superficial. It is not something that can be supported. See, you and I can sit and have a conversation and say, Venezuela is a horrible country, and you said, no, it's a wonderful country. India is a horrible country. You know, that is just a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. But you don't draw research conclusions out of casual conversations. Casual conversations, you don't draw these. So the thing is, let's see, if nobody else comes from tomorrow,
Mm.
and if you come, we'll change tack a little.
Mm.
I'll go to the empirical part. Just give me one or two classes to wind up with theoretical research,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go on to the empirical research. And after all said and done, I'm your supervisor. So if you have any questions about India, about Indian culture, please don't feel that I'll be offended. I will not be offended. I know what this country is like. Okay, I'm not one of those foolish patriots who will say everything here is great. I am a patriot. I would believe that I'm an Indian. I'm not an American. I'm not a Britishman. I'm an Indian, but I'm not blind to what happens here.
Mm.
So please, you can openly, whatever your observations are, you can discuss them with me.
Okay. Nice.
So if you don't mind, one last attempt.
Uh-huh.
I'll also try and put a message
Okay.
uh, for these people, but I don't think they'll come. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure of that. Uh, so anyway, since I'm your supervisor, it
Mm.
makes sense to
Mm.
have a meeting every day, so things won't pile up. And then, no, 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 no. You have missed out all these parts. You should know this. And
Mm.
so I don't mind. One is a crowd for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then. So
Okay.
tomorrow, if you can, just I'll also try and send some messages.
Mm.
They come, they come. If they don't, I don't care. Like I
Okay.
said, I'm just doing it out of the consciousness that this university is supposed to teach a course on research methodology, and no department is doing it.
Mm.
Everybody is just being pushed. So that's not the way education happens. Education is exchange, exchange of ideas. One of the reasons why I am extremely, um, extremely, I mean, I'm a very big admirer of Aristotle. That is because he learned from his students. And if you look at his book, Ethics, it's actually not one book, it's two books. One is Nicomachean Ethics,
Mm-hmm.
which he learned from his father, whose name was Nicomachus. And the other one is Eudemian Ethics. Eudemus was a student, and his student influenced him. So great people like that, if they have an open mind, an idiot like me should have an open mind. So feel free to discuss whatever you want. No need to censor anything, or if there's something inaccurate, we'll say no, this is not accurate. But we'll have an open mind. You have an open mind. I have an open mind. And in the next few days, we'll move over to discussions so that you can also start working specifically with a focus on your subject
Okay.
or your thesis. Okay.
Nice.
All right then.
Mhm.
See you. See you tomorrow, 6:30.
you.
Yeah, please
Yes.
put a message to these people. One last attempt.
Mhm.
They come, they come. If they don't, that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
My conscience is clear. I tried. Did you see this film, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
No.
You should see it. It's a Jack Nicholson film. Jack Nicholson, somebody tells him that there is gold to be dug somewhere. So Jack Nicholson goes and he's digging to see if he can find that gold. So there are
Mhm.
people standing around looking at him, and finally there's no gold. So they laugh at him. So he says, "Why are you laughing? What if I had found gold? At least I tried. You people didn't even do that.
Mm.
If I had found gold, what would you have done? Would you have asked me to give you the gold?" So I like that, at least I tried.
Yes. Don't
Okay.
worry. It's okay.
All right. Good
Okay, Professor.
night. Good
Good
night.
night. Bye.
Bye.